Yo, what's good, guys? Inswain with Inswain Audio. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe and join the family because I'm dropping tutorials just like this every single day. A lot of gems. Not many people are doing it like this. Welcome to the family. We missed you. Anyways, today I'm going to be talking about the one thing, probably the most important thing that you can do as a mix engineer to be successful. And if you can't do this, you probably have no chance. It's just the reality of it. So let's get into it. Alright, so today we're going to be watching a little clip from the My Audio Nerds podcast from Help Me Devon. If you haven't ever checked this out, definitely do. I can't recommend this channel enough. The podcast in particular is very informative, educational, and it's just entertaining. So it's an easy watch. But anyways, today we're going to be watching the episode with Leslie Brathwaite. It's called How Leslie Brathwaite Mixed for Beyonce, Cardi B, Outkast, and Madonna. Obviously a very successful engineer. They had him on and they were talking to him and they asked him some questions and he was just sharing stories and experiences, it's really entertaining, but there's a lot of value we can take from it. And in this particular story, there's a gem lesson in here that I want to talk about. So we're going to watch this together, and this is fair use for teaching purposes. So let's check this out.
And she was like, I have a problem that I hope you can help me with. Mm-hmm. So a guy mixed a record in, I think it was in Canada, and she goes, there's something about this mix I can't like.
He's talking about Cardi B, by the way, but not that that's necessarily important to the story, but just know he's talking about working with an artist.
But I can't tell him. I don't know what communicate it.
Right.
I said, well, let me hear the mix. And she played it. And I said, well, what's bothering you about it? Right. And she said, I don't know how to describe it, but it just makes me feel dizzy.
Interesting.
The minute she said that, and I'd heard the mix, I knew what the problem was. Huh? Called the engineer. I said, Daryl, let me talk to the engineer. I said, hey, dog, there's a sound that sounds like a siren in the record, and it's panning. It's auto panning.
Gotcha.
I said, all you got to do, I said, don't do anything else. Take off the auto pan, leave everything else how it is, and send it back.
Right.
He goes, really? I was like, yeah. He sends it back, play it, and she goes, oh my God, what did you do? This sounds amazing.
You just told someone what.
And so my point was, I figured out in that moment what her communication style was.
Yeah. Okay.
She doesn't know how to articulate the technical thing.
Yeah. Right.
She knows how to tell me how it makes her feel.
Right.
So my job from that day forward until the end of time is to now know that when she tells me how something makes her feel,
right,
I have to translate that to what I need, what button I need to push.
Technically. Right.
By the way,
that was how I learned to talk to Cardi.
Right.
You got to develop a language.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And know their
By the way, that sounds like an amazing Audio Nerds episode. It's like play Cardi a bunch of mixes.
And say, Cardi, how does this make you feel?
Wrong?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fire. And she was smoking. I feel like she was smoking.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
She'll tell you
fire.
She'll tell you, and that's literally how she communicates.
Right. Yeah.
Every song we've ever mixed, if something bothers her, she doesn't know how to say turn down the hi-hats. She'll say, Leslie, it's a thing that's annoying me. It just keeps racking my brain. It's that ching 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 ching.
Right.
Oh, turn down the hi-hat.
Yep. As soon as you heard ching ching ching, you're like, oh, I got it.
Like it's just racking my brain. And,
right.
You know, the hi-hat in the song was very loud.
Right.
Yeah.
So you just
she communicates and feels. And so that's the important thing is, and I use that story a lot of times when I'm teaching to communicate the thought or the process of it's important to learn the language of the person that you're dealing with.
Right.
Exactly.
Understand how they communicate, make things super easy. She knows she don't have to go back and forth with me.
Right.
All she gotta do is tell me how to make her feel and I got it. I got you.
She like,
All right, so that's a cool story, but what can we take from that is that when you are the mix engineer, obviously you understand the technical aspects of it, right? That's your job. But the artists and the people that you're working with, producers, whoever, they don't always know these things and they don't have the proficiency in the language all the time. So you have to be able to translate what they're saying, or not even what they're saying, what they're intending to say, and be able to do that and to translate that. Sometimes they might say one thing, but they actually mean something else. And you have to be able to figure that out. You have to be able to decipher this on the fly because it's never going to be the same. You have to take into consideration what they say. If you have a previous relationship with them, maybe you know what they like. And then you have to also consider the current song you're working on, the mix, what layers there are, how they react. So there's a lot of work to be done to get to the bottom of what they actually mean and be able to do it and then deliver them what they want. Being able to actually do what they request is only half the job. The other half is you got to try to figure it out. And it all comes down to it's communication and working with people. That's a big thing in mixing that a lot of tutorials on YouTube here won't talk about. They'll tell you how to sidechain your kick and use Soothe and all these things, and that's great. You need to be able to be an engineer. But if you can't understand what the client is asking, you can do all these crazy tricks, but that might not even be what they're asking for. And then they're not going to be happy and you're not going to get work. So yeah, you need to know these things, but you need to be able to communicate with the artist and understand what they're trying to communicate. And this can be different for every person. And then as you build a relationship, it's going to evolve. And also another layer of difficulty is if you're working remotely, like working online, you might just be texting with the person or messaging or emailing or whatever. So now you're not even able to hear their voice and their tone of voice, and there might be spelling errors or, typing errors. So then it's just going to add another layer, another barrier to that layer of communication that's going to make it difficult. So sometimes you might get revision notes and the artist might say, like, I don't know, can you we'll use the example of the ching, ching, ching. Can you turn the hi-hat down? And you turn it down, and then they might say, now it's too quiet, turn it up. And then you're fighting back and forth when maybe they didn't want it actually turned down. They just wanted frequencies EQ'd out of it. They were harsh or something, right? And this is just an example. So you have to be able to interpret and decipher that as the mix engineer. And it also makes it hard because there's kind of like a battle going on where you want to do exactly what they say because it's their song and they asked for it. But also you have to remember that they're hiring you for your expertise. So I'm not saying to disregard what they say, but you need to have the authority and the confidence to know when to say, okay, they asked for this, but they really mean this, or they asked for this, so I'm going to do this. And it can be a really fine line to balance and to walk. And that can be one of the most difficult things because I was for the longest time in the school of thought where they give me a list of things to do, I'm going to do it to the T exactly. Even if I disagree with it and think it sounds awful, I'm going to do it because they asked for it. But then as I started to get better and better and work with more people, I started to realize that more people were telling me, I don't know what to do, you do it, I'm trusting you. So more people were coming to me for my flavor and my expertise. And that's what they're hiring me for, is to make those decisions for them. So you have to know when you're working with an artist that is very particular and they know what they want and give them exactly what they want versus an artist who's very uncertain, standoffish, and is putting the trust in your hands and they want your expertise or anything in between. So it's a lot of a psychological game, a people person communication game. And you don't hear about this a lot on YouTube. You just hear about, like I said, the technical stuff, but a lot of this goes into it. And you don't need to be perfect at it at first. You'll develop this as a skill just like you do mixing. But if you don't ever develop this, if you can't do this, you're just not going to make it as a mix engineer because this is such a big part of it. So hope that helped you guys. Hope that was interesting. I'll link the full episode to this podcast down below. Definitely recommend checking it out. And this whole channel, I learned most of what I know primarily through Help Me Devon. So I can't thank him enough. I can't recommend his channel enough. I've seen every video he's uploaded back in the day, the tutorials, and I've seen every episode of the podcast available on YouTube. I learned from him more than anyone else. Of course, I watched everything I could find, but I studied him a lot. For some reason, he just connected with me when I first started. But enough of that. My name is Inswain with Inswain Audio. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, and name your firstborn child after me. The YouTube algorithm is ruthless these days. I'd really appreciate it. I'll see y'all tomorrow, man. Peace.